Greetings. I was just doing a little housekeeping with my spirit doll here, getting her ready for the season, getting her out. I'm going to use her and give her a place of honor this year. I don't know if you remember her, if you saw any of my old videos. This is a spirit doll that I made last year from an apple head that I found in the back of one of my cupboards from years ago when I had carved apple heads. I don't know how long she'd been in there, but she had, aged. She's darkened, much darker. It's harder to see now her features. You can see them very well when you're close to her, but on camera I know it's hard to see. But anyway, I did a video last year showing you how I made her, and I will provide a link to that below. And in that video I also provided a link to a video I made, several years ago, quite a few years ago. The first time I ever made spirit dolls from apples. And I showed you several other examples. I don't know, 3 or 4 other examples of spirit dolls. Those spirit dolls have been since returned to the earth. It is possible that the spirit doll can last indefinitely. They don't really rot as they dry out. They shrivel up. Usually they shrivel up as much as they are going to shrivel, but they do get really dark colored, and they're not often kept too long. But there are examples of them that are very old that people have found, of dolls, apple, whether they're used for spirit dolls or not. They're apple dolls that are very, very, very old, that are still intact. But when I make a spirit doll, I like to return it after a while. I like to keep it around for a while, several years, and then until I see fit, and then I like to return it to the earth. And of course, when I return it, that's why most of the materials that I use on a spirit doll when I make them are things that will biodegrade into the earth. Not everything. Obviously, on this one that I made before, she has this little metal ball. She has little bells on her. She has a little bottle here where she carries an apple seed around her waist. Those things I would not bury, but I'd probably cut those off. The little bells I might bury, but this, no. This necklace that she wears with this poinsettia charm on it, and her little bottle with her apple seed in it, I will not keep, but I will keep those, but I will bury the rest. Okay. I made her, you see in the video, I made her with 4 legs, which is kind of funny, but I made her with 4 legs. I know you can't see in here, my light is very bad, but you can see very well, I think very well in the video how I did it. But I did that because I wanted to give her a base to stand on, and I also wanted it gave the fullness to her skirt. I wanted her skirt to remain full. I also gave her a little broom that I fashioned out of my pepper tree that I had to take out, and one of my hen's feathers, and just some jute twine here that I've tied it on to make her little broom. And I've even given her a little place on her belt that I can put that through, and it just helps it stand up, the broom to stand up like she's holding it. The reason that she's out with me today is I had to glue her head back on. She's been in my cupboard for a good many months, and I picked her up. When I picked her up, I kind of pulled her head off because I don't know how secure it was in the first place, but it's pretty on there secure enough. I just used tacky glue to secure it on. But anyway, I'm making some new dolls, new spirit dolls, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you, give you a little better angle at how I might, some of the steps involved, and maybe a little different some other methods of how you can do it with using the apples. Now, I'm just again using the apples. I like to use the apples because this is the harvest season. Apples are harvested at this time, and we use the apples for all things. We always have apples in our house at this time of the year, and they're just fun. They're really fun. But anyway, other than that, I wanted to show you the close-up, but I also wanted to talk to you just for a few minutes because I had been asked. Let me just put her aside so she doesn't, so her head can dry, so she doesn't fall over. But anyway, I have some other apples here that I have carved, and I'm going to show you what happens. But I wanted to answer a question first beforehand. I have been asked, where do I get the ideas when I'm designing, when I'm decorating my spirit dolls? Well, because I usually come up with unique ways. I have had sometimes I usually use a combination of feathers and twigs or sticks for arms or legs or whatever. Sometimes I've made them with no legs at all, that they just are flying. I've showed you those in the past. The video that I'm going to link to for you again, those of you who are newer and never saw that. But how do I decide how did she end up to be carrying the apple seed? How did she end up to have, be dressed the way she is or whatever, okay? So I get asked that all the time. And I want to say there's a couple of things that I take into consideration, and I will show some of those to you. But first and foremost, if you're going to be creating a spirit doll, I want to say to you, what energy about the doll is it that you want to use? If you want to harvest a certain kind of energy at a certain time of the year, and for a certain reason, either for an altar or for spell work or for whatever, that's going to help you very much determine what you might want to use in your doll. Let me give you an example. If you want to use air energy, like if you want to use the elemental energies, if you want to use the air energies, you might want to use things that are characteristic of, represent the element of air in your doll. For instance, like I had the one with flying. She was flying without any legs. I had using feathers around with the doll all the time, or those kind of things indicates a air energy, pulls in the air energy. You can use different colors on your dolls to represent different energies. If you want to represent fire energy, you might want to use a lot of reds or a lot of exciting symbols that evoke passion or excitement or whatever. Another thing is you might want to represent a particular deity. If you want to do a doll, for instance, for Hecate, think about what it is about Hecate that you want to represent in your spirit doll. What traits of Hecate is it that you want to be using? Okay, so that's something else. Another thing I do is once my apples are dried, and I'm going to show you I'm going to change my camera so you get a better chance to see some of these. But once, I carve my apple, I'm going to go forward and then I'm going to go backwards. When I'm going to say, once my apple is carved, I might pick it up and say, this reminds me of a certain person. Like I had that happen to me when I carved the dolls in the past. I said that one of the dolls reminded me of Mrs. Urch, who lived next door to my grandmother when I was younger, and she actually was a teacher at my school, and I just saw her face in that doll. And she had only one arm. In an accident when she was a child, she had an accident with a combine or something, a tractor or something, on her family farm, and she lost an arm. So, but nothing stopped her, She of course went on to be a teacher and have family, and she lived independently, etc. It didn't stop her in any way. And so I gave her wings, I gave her feathers instead of arms. I had, here this one I said represented. When I looked at her face, I just saw my grandmother. I saw the shape of my grandmother's nose or cheeks or something about my grandmother. She reminded me. So I kept the apple seed in there because my connection with my grandmother is about the apple. I just kept her in that really, crone, wearing an apron, but a really lovely apron. My grandmother always had a handmade apron, always embroidered, washed and pressed neatly, folded in her basket all the time when she brought food to the house or whatever. She was a very neat woman and dressed well all the time, and so that was the energy. I just wanted to give her energies into that. These kind of things, if it looks like somebody, that's the spirit coming through to me. That's what I try to represent. I'm going to show you a little bit close up. I'm going to change my camera in just a minute, and I have another apple for you. I don't know. It might be a bigger apple. It might be the size of her. The apples that I did this time, I did a bag of apples, so the apples were small. And when they dried, they varied in size. But some of them were really absolutely quite small. And that was really my intention. I wanted to make small heads for a particular reason. But you can use any size apple. It doesn't make any difference. And even though these were all the same, from the same bag of apples, they varied greatly in when they dried. Some came out this size and some came out this size, but it was the same bag. This is almost twice the size of this one. Different apples have different, the apples will have a different moisture content in them. So it's a surprise, just like people are surprised when we age. What we look like is a surprise sometimes. This is going to happen to your apple. It's representing a person who has aged. A person who has aged, and their face, their features are, wrinkles. There's wrinkles. Their eyes maybe are, their cheeks are, maybe their jowls are deep or whatever. They're represent a thin line, and their lips usually a thin line, and the nose sometimes appears quite large, but the nose in somebody who ages, they say your nose and your ears keep growing as you age, which is one of the reasons why older people seem to have, a lot of them, very big ears and very big noses, if you ever notice. It just, they keep growing. I think. They keep growing, or they do not diminish in size like the rest of the features on the face. Maybe that's more likely. I did some experimenting this time in my apple, which I will show you again when I change my camera, some of the effects that I got. And it's my intention in this video not to be I don't want to repeat necessarily all the steps it takes me to make a doll. I've already showed you a couple of times how to do that. But I just want to give you a few more pointers about it. And for instance, I want to tell you a little better what happens when you carve the apple, because even though you're going to get a face, you can pretty much very crudely carve it. It doesn't have to be a really good job, and I'm not skilled at carving by any means. But there's certain things that happen when you make certain cuts in the apple as the apple dries, and that's something that I want you to be aware of. And I also want to be able to show you that some of these apples, as they have dried, look maybe kind of scary. They look kind of scary. And I'll show you that. Some of these faces are a little scary. But I want to remind you, there's no eyes in them, number one. There's no hair or features. We didn't do anything to make the cheeks nice and rosy or anything like that. We didn't do anything like that. We didn't give them the eyes with the light in the eye. Adding those tiny little touches really makes a difference in your face. But I want to remind you, an older person, as they age, their face, it sags. It sags, right? Look, it sags. And also, resting bitch face. Resting bitch face. is a real thing. I'm very aware of that. If I'm not thinking about it and I'm just sitting, relaxing, maybe looking at something, it looks like I'm angry off it. I have to make a point to be careful that I engage my face a little bit when I'm just sitting, listening to somebody talk or whatever, waiting for them to, or whatever, that I don't, because if I'm just sitting, just sitting, I seem angry. But if I'm sitting and I don't want to seem angry, I have to engage a little bit of the muscles in my face so that it doesn't look like I'm pissed. Okay, so just because some of your apples might look pissed, that's a very natural thing for a crone face. But that doesn't mean they're pissed. But anyway, I did a couple of things to experiment, which I just want to share with you some of the steps, and then and also give you the link. So if you wanted to, you have lots of time to do this. These apples that I did the quick way, which I told you about. I don't know if I did in the first video, but the second video I certainly did when I made this one here that I just repaired. I did them in the oven. I hung them to dry in the oven. I'm going to give you another idea for that if that's too much. But I like to do them in the oven because we've been having a problem with fruit flies, and I don't want apples hanging around attracting fruit flies and making my problems worse. So in the oven, it's over and done, and they came out pretty well. They came out pretty nicely. Okay, let me fix my camera, and then I will show you a little bit about carving, a little carving technique. I hope you're able to see a little better than you were in the last one. I have a really big apple here. This is good. This is a giant. This is a giant Granny Smith, but it's a lot bigger than the apples that I carved to that I just showed you. But I thought it'd be easier for you to see in this on the video if I had a bigger apple. This is the size, really, basically a big apple is what I used for my, the spiritual I made last year. But the ones I'm making this year are out of the small Granny Smiths. Just so we're clear on that. Okay, I just want to show you, it doesn't really matter how you peel it. I just use I always use a paring knife because that's what I do. I just am kind of challenged with peelers. And it doesn't matter, there's no rhyme or reason. You want to leave as much of the apple as you can. But I have such a big apple that I'm cutting quickly, that I'm kind of taking off more than I need to. But also, I have another ulterior motive for taking off more apple than I need, is I like to take this peel, and I'll show you in a minute. What I have done with my peel, I don't like anything to go to waste. That's my major concern always, that as little as waste can, so many things are usable. Don't want to go to the extreme, but when I carved, like for one apple, it doesn't really matter. But I've just been doing a lot of things with apples, so I've had a lot of peel. So I take all this peel and I put it in my jar, and you might see, I've seen at the beginning of this video, the jars behind me on the counter. If you can't see them in this video, you've seen them in other videos. I fill my jar up with my apple peels, and then I add some water, a little bit of sugar, and cover it up, gets air in but no bugs in, and allow it to ferment, and I make my own apple cider vinegar. So that's a really cool trick to do. Okay, but I want to show you here. This is sort of, if I could get somebody at random to just take this apple peel away, dump that for me so I can, and the compost is fine. That went in the compost. I had quite a lot of apple peels. I have two jars behind me with apple cider vinegar and one jar with pear vinegar. So But so that one's going to the compost. But anyway, I now have a peeled apple. As you can see, it's not smooth. It has highs and lows. And what I do first of all is I just look on my apple. You can look and see, you know, I'm looking at it to see if there's a face that's suggested to me in any way. I kind of see a high point here. There could be a nose. I kind of see a mouth here, and two little marks where there could be eyes. I know you can't see that on the video. I just want to keep turning it. This is a very flat face. But I'm thinking this is the face that is speaking to me right now. So this is where I want my face to be. It doesn't matter. You might not see anything. You might just decide. But what I want to determine first of all is where are the eyes going to be? Where's the nose going to be? Where's the mouth? That's the parts that we have to get. And I see this part here is raised. You could probably see it there. So I'm going to determine that that's my nose. And I'm just going to put a couple slits in the apple. And I've showed you this in the past. I just take a little bit of a little piece of apple out. So now you can see very well that there's a dent there. And then I want to go to the other side because I want it to be kind of symmetrical. It doesn't matter. And I want to take another piece out here. And now you can see that I have the beginnings of what might be either side of the nose. Now what happens is when you take pieces of apple out of here, of course when this dries, that's going to shrivel together. That's going to shrivel together. So we're going to see a nose, and you can see, let me pull one of my other apples out. See, the nose is very much, here you can see, and this one that's shriveled, you can see the line of the nose and the cheeks, and there's the holes for the eyes, and how the cheeks have drawn into the nose. They've drawn into the nose. And that's what this is helping to delineate. If I didn't have these wedges there, it would just be one solid thing. So I need the wedges. And then I probably, because I like to determine the bottom of the nose. So if I want to leave room for a mouth, so I'm going to have a rather short nose. And I'm just going to take a little bit out at the bottom of that nose right now, as you can see. So that the nose, I have three sides representing the nose. Okay? And then I want to make, where are my eyes going to be? My eyes are going to be up here, and I even see a raised part of my eye, of the apple here, and the apple here, which could be the beginnings of the eye socket. Do you see that on there? How it's raised here, and it's raised there. Okay, so I'm going to take right on that line, and I'm going to make a little horizontal, cut a little horizontal cut on each side. And I did the left side first because I'm right-handed, and so I could try to get it straight. But I see, so here you see a slit and another slit. This is not the actual eye. It looks like an eye hole, but this is actually on the brow where it comes down. If you would feel on your own head or look on your own head, your skull comes down and then it goes in, and your eye would be in here. This would be cut. It would be deep. So I'm going to make, first of all, a place for the eyes. I'm going to just make it like a little, cut out a little circle. It doesn't have to be a circle. It can be any kind of size you want. But just to sort of establish where I have eye sockets. There, you can see. You can see the slots above, and then you can see the little holes for the eye sockets. They're not even in any way. And then my three-sided nose, okay? And then I'm going to just, because I'm going to rough out the face, I'm going to add a mouth somewhere below the nose. That's the best place for a mouth. And I'm going to just make another, and I'm going to leave a little space because I kind of like to see a lip. So I'm going to just go below. Okay, now you can see it. The first slit showed the bottom of the nose, and the next slit showed the open mouth. And the skin in between there is going to probably end up here. You can see a lip. You You can see a lip. On some of these, you can see the better lips. Let's see if I can get a better one. They're kind of hard to see at this point. Maybe this one. I don't know if you can tell, but he has below his nose, then he has like a lip, and then the slit for this. So he has like an upper lip and a lower lip. It's convenient to have two. Here we have this guy. Oh, there we go. You see the skin between his nose and his mouth. There is some kind of lip there, upper lip, we would call it. Okay? I recognize it's hard to tell until I get the eyes done. You can't see what I'm looking at, but I'm just trying to show you. These are going to shrink down. This is going to shrink. This might, you never know what it's going to do. Sometimes they end up with a scowl and they end up with a frown. Let me get one. Let me see. Sometimes it's nondescript. This guy looks a little bit like he's just straight. He's just, no expression, just a straight lip. Let's see. This one has a little bit of a lip, a little bit of a smile, a little bit turned up. This one, though, looks like a pouty face. Oh, there's a pouty face. Kind of a pouty face. And this is one that kind of looks angry, but I think when we get the eyes in here and we get some color on the cheeks and stuff, I think this is just going to be a nice old sweet face. Okay? But then some of them are downright smiley. Look at this one, how happy. What a nice little smile. You just don't know. When it dries up, it just takes on a personality of its own. The spirit of the doll comes through in the apple. Okay, now I'm not finished. I'm not near finished, because now what I have to do is I want the eye socket. There's not any bump above the eye here. This should all be kind of cleaned out, and I kind of clean it out just a little bit at a time. Pretty much to the nose. From that hole over to the nose. Everything in that place is going to come out. And the same on this one. On this place. Right over to where I cut. I lower that. Okay, so that it's down lower. It's lower than the eye. It's lower than the eyebrow. Okay. And I take a little bit of this out above the eye. And sometimes you get out more than you need and you go, oh, I ruined it, like cut out too much. Well, no, you didn't cut out too much. It's an apple. It does what it wants to do. And you really don't know what kind of character lines you're going to show when you get it. When it's finished, okay? So anyway, I just have very roughly, my nose is higher than where my eyes would be. And if you look on your face, that's pretty true. It's usually pretty true. If not, you kind of look weird. But your eyebrow, this socket is indented. Your eyes are going to be inside here. I'm going to exaggerate that hole a little bit better. So it's going to close up, and then I'm going to end up putting a clove in there after it's all dry. Now, I've said before, some people put the clove in first, but sometimes it gets so dry that it gets brittle and breaks, so you end up having to replace it anyway. Okay. Now, anyway, we have a cheek. Now we have cheeks below the eyes. And your cheeks should be up higher than your eye socket, so they can stay up high. But they really, sink down again. You have a little bit of around your chin area, around your mouth, it's lower than your cheek. It's not, if you would feel along your face, you would notice that your cheek is usually sticks up a little higher than that part of your face. So we can delineate here. We can take a little bit, like on the bottom of the cheek, I'm going to make a line. Let's see, I want the line to go just like I did for the eyes. See, I'm cutting out a place on the cheek, on each side. Okay, I added that. Now you see the cheek area is emphasized. I think you can see that pretty well on the video. Hope so. Okay, and then again, I want to do the same thing. I want to take underneath it, like on either side of the mouth, I want to take some of that out. I don't want all of that. I want it to be narrower, like I would like a little chin action going on in there. I can even take that above that lip. See, my lips are kind of raised. And then I can take it over here. I can take some of that out. Okay. So I kind of designated where I want a chin area to be. Now, of course, this is the way I do it. You do it your way. This is maybe a really silly way to do it. I don't know. I have no skill, no training in this. As if you could get training in carving apples, but I think people that are trained in scum, it looks almost like his goatee, doesn't it? Now, what happens when that dries up? This lip is either going to pull up or pull down. These will pull in. The cheeks will pull in. I want this cleaned out under the. I don't want anything under the cheek around here. I want this all to be down low. So if I would run my finger along here, this is all kind of on the same level. The lips are raised. The chin is a little bit raised. The cheeks are raised. The nose is raised. The brow is raised, but the eye socket and between the eyes and the nose is lower. Again, over here, the eye socket is even lower still. Okay, very crude. Very crude. But this is going to dry, and this is going to become whoever it's going to become. That's the beauty of it, okay? So now what I would do with this is I would do two things. I would decide how I'm going to either hang it or stick it. I think I would like to try to put this on a different way than I did. The other ones, I put a wire through them and then I hung them on my rack in my oven. This one, because I maybe have one, I think I'm going to put them on a skewer. Joe, do you know where those skewers are? Those short, fat skewers? Could you get me one? A thin skewer would not really hold it because this is a pretty heavy apple, but I'm going to try to put one skewer in the bottom and see if it'll go. And then I can just have it stand up. I can put that in a dish of some kind, or maybe a can, an empty soup can or something would work. And then I'm going to put it in my oven for as low as my oven goes, 170 degrees. For probably 1 day, maybe 2 days at the most. You can take it out when you want to use the oven, put it back in. Just remember it's in there and see what happens. But before I do that, I like to treat mine. I treat them, I put a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of salt.
4.5 inch.
Okay, this is just one of those, yeah. Joe said, what, 4.5 inches?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the thicker skewers. You could use anything though, I think. And I'm going to just try to put this in the bottom if I can do that without breaking it. I don't have a pilot hole, so. But I don't need to go in very far. I just need to go in far enough that it's going to sit. Okay. There we go. That's better. And then I made like a lollipop, didn't I? So then I would dunk this and a mixture of, like when I did my whole batch before, I had like a cup of lemon juice and a tablespoon of salt. That's about how I judge. Okay, so now I have this stick in here and I have a couple options. I can get like an empty, like a short bottle, like maybe a beer bottle or something like that, or soda bottle, some short thing that I can stand him in. Or I could even, I'm going to experiment, like just letting him sit down on the rack of my oven, that this stick will keep him from falling over on his face. You understand what I mean? It'll just be sitting here, and the oven is not really hot enough to do anything to it. I've had issues in the past where I had it sort of burn a little bit because they fell off of the wire and they fell down near in the heating element, and they got a little bit burned. Not burned, but discolored. But this one should not being able to sit on the rack. So I'm going to experiment and see if that works. Anyway, or you can hang it, anything you want to do, but it's going to take until it shrivels up, and it's going to get as small as it's going to get. It won't get this small for sure. But then you just want, it's going to be a little, it's still a little spongy, but it's dry. You'll be able to tell when it's dry. And then you'll be ready to decorate it. The last time I carved these apples, I was experimenting, and I wondered what it would happen if I would use an open mouth, if I would carve one with an open mouth rather than just a slit. So I made like a circle, a little round circle, almost like a true circle, and allowed it to dry, and it turned out, I don't know if you can see it yet, you'll be able to see it later when I apply a little bit of paint, but it made like an oval mouth, and it looked to me like this apple was singing. She was singing. And I thought, I know who you are. I recognized her right away. Several years ago, I might have told you this story before, but it's one of my favorite stories. Several years ago, my husband and I were driving to Trader Joe's, and it's very close to Leisure World and very close to an assisted living home. And they're marching down the street. It's a very busy street, I have to say. Here in Southern California, our streets are, my mother was afraid to drive on the streets when she came here. She thought they were highways. They're not, they're streets. But they just had a lot of traffic on them. And it was a residential area. But this woman was just marching down the street. She had no shoes on. She had very bright socks on. She was literally marching, playing a recorder down the street, marching to her own tune. And what struck me at the time, I thought it was kind of adorable, but what struck me at the time was that nobody in any of the passing cars, which there were a lot of cars passing her, even were looking at her, giving her the time of day. Nobody noticed her. But she was very much alive in her own reality, in her own space. Her spirit, her body was broken, aged, of course, maybe even had some illness, who knows. But her spirit just flew down the street. And that's what I was thinking when I first met this little spirit head. So I'm going to accentuate. I'm going to give a little bit of accentuate. I'm going to put a little bit of paint. I thought red lipstick would be nice. So I'm going to put a little bit of red on her lips so they can really see them. I'm going to experiment a little bit with some rice. I have some rice here. Then I'm going to experiment and see if I can put a few teeth in the mouth so that you can really tell it's a mouth, maybe the upper teeth. And we'll put a little rouge on her face. And then, of course, I have my whole cloves here that I can put in for the eyes. So in order to do that, let me see. I think I will do, I think I'm going to try to do the teeth first to see if the rice will go in there. I don't have room for much rice, but I have room for a few grains. And I just think, of course, this is brown rice, so it's not going to be very white. So that'll be even more realistic. And I have some tacky glue here that I could just try to put a little rice on that, a little glue on them to hold them in. I think I will just do I think I'll put a few pilot holes in there to see if I can see. I'm losing my light. I'm going to just put a hole in here and maybe another one here. And another one here. I think I'm going to try to do 4 teeth. And see if I can push that rice in a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my paper towel so I can dip the rice into the glue. Like that. And then I'm going to just see how that works. I don't want to see a lot of it, I just want to see a little. Just enough to give me the impression of teeth. We'll see what happens when it dries. I'll just push it in. I don't want it to look like fangs. She's not scary. She just has little teeth. And, you know, there are no rules when you do this. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Use whatever materials you have on hand. I would not go shopping for any materials for spirit dolls. I would just see what you have around you in nature, around you in your home. I think I've showed you before, I collect things that I use for all of my magical purposes. I collect and dry all of my herbs and my flowers. And okay, now they're not going to be straight, but they don't need to be because she's old, right? She's old. So we'll see what happens when that dries, okay? And in the meantime, I'm going to find some cloves for the eyes. I want to make sure I get cloves that have heads on them. Nice heads. You know, when you look at them, you see a nice. Those are kind of a personal. Let me put this lid back on. You want them to kind of match, kind of be the same size. Okay. So those two look pretty good. Do they? Yeah, that one's big. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to do, again, I'm going to make a pilot hole. Put a pilot hole just wherever the clove's going to go. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that clove. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a little more glue on my paper towel. I realized why the head fell off of my old doll. That I had not really glued her. I just set her on there. I didn't have any reason to glue it, but now, almost a year later, okay. So I'm going to push that in there. And of course, remember, I'm going to put some paint on that. Get another pilot hole here. There's already a hole there, remember, when I did it, but I just like to, I don't want to break the clove. I want to get it to go down in there and fill up that socket. And just all of a sudden, there, putting the cloves in, you start to see somebody, right? Now that little glimmer of white you see is the glue. It's going to dry clear. It's going to dry clear. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paint and I'm going to paint. I have a little bit of craft paint here, and I used just basically, you know, here basic red and basic white. There, I guess this was the red, basic red and basic white. And as you can see, I have my favorite jar that I've used for years. It has paint all over it. But anyway, I'm going to just take a little tiny bit of I'm not even going to probably even use this, but I want to take a little bit of white, put a little bit of dot. I gotta shake this up. I have a brush. It's not a very good brush. I want to make sure it'll go to a point though, because I want a dot. So let's see. I'm going to shake it up, and I might just use little tiny bits like this. I usually just take it from the lid. And I get a little bit of paint on there. I'm going to put a little bit of white on the eyes. And remember what I told you before? Sometimes it's fun to have them almost looking in opposite directions or different directions or whatever. But I'm just going to, it just adds a little bit of light, to the eye, to the clove, and it just makes it look, now it looks more like an eye. I mean, it will when it is dry, it will look more like it. Okay, and then I just take, I get a little bit of red, and I'm going to try to give her a little bit of lipstick first. Let's see if I can do that. A little bit of red to her lips. And my light is really bad. Let me try to move this over closer so I can see. There's better. I can see a little better. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the red. And again, I take it from my lid. And I'm just going to put it a little bit on her lips. And her lips are nice and wrinkled. You know, an older crone would have. Her lips would be kind of wrinkled. And I'm just following the apple to tell me where to add the color. Now, I usually do not put color on my lips, but I thought for sure this woman would have it on hers. She might have it. Some lipstick. I was reminded of a story when I went to nursing school for a while, a little while, and I was working as a nurse's assistant while I was in school over at one of these assisted living homes. And one of my jobs every day, there was I think she was 96, there was a woman there, lived in this, on our station, 96 years old, suffered very severely from dementia. Every day we would get her out of bed and we would get her dressed, get her bathed, get her dressed, and fix her hair. And she liked that little ponytail holder. She liked her hair in little pigtails. And she liked us to do her hair. She had like children's hair things, really. Because she said Papa was going to come and take her dancing. There we go. There we go. And we're going to see what happens when those teeth, when the teeth dries. Anyway, Papa was coming to take her dancing. And of course he never came because she was 97 and he was long dead, but it made her very excited. She was very excited to get ready for him. And then by the time we got her all dressed and ready to go, she would be tired and we could put her back into bed. But it was good for her to get out of bed every day. And it was very fun for her to, in her dementia, to be expecting him. So this is really overdone, isn't it? It's somebody who's very overdone with these lips. But we'll see what happens. And then what I usually do is I just take a little bit watered down paint. Just almost like a dry brush, and apply rouge to the cheek. And I just smooth it out because that shows us where the cheek is. And just the same thing over here. I'm just taking it and spreading that out. I just want the hint of pink on her cheeks. Just a hint. Of course, if she's marching him down the street, she's going to be a little winded. All right. So we'll see what happens when that dries. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I want to talk to you a little bit about the body of the doll. And what I have today to use for this one, I have a big long, it's just a stick. It was in our yard. I don't know what it's from. It's been laying there a really long time. It's very hard. I'm going to try to cut it with my cutters, but it's been laying there for a long time. And I've decided, because she's going to be marching, she needs feet, she needs legs, but I don't think she needs to have arms. I think I'd rather have her to have feathers, or to have wings rather than feathers for arms, which is one of my favorite things to do. And if you know, I've always saved. I have this crock. Can't really see it. Maybe you can see it. That I made this crock actually, but I have this beautiful collection of feathers from my hens. It's hard to show the camera like this. But anyway, I do. I have a lot of, let me take them out. There you go. A lot of beautiful feathers from my hens, which I keep in here. And if you've ordered from me, you might have received one of my feathers. I use them for all kinds of things. I have a very good relationship with my hens, and I think they assist me in my magic all the time. But these feathers, as you can see, even the smaller ones, the ones that aren't terrifically big, for this size head, I think they're just way too big. Okay, so I'm not going to use that for this. I had some other feathers that I collected. You know, some of my hens are molting right now, and they're giving off the loveliest little butt feathers. That's what I call them. They're very, very wispy, and they're gorgeous. And but they're a little bit too lightweight for what I had in mind. I did have in my collection a couple other ones that don't really match, but they're better suited for arms. Better suited. This one's really lovely. And this one looks like it's been in a problem. And I'm not even positive that this is a hen feather. This might be, it almost looks like a gull feather. I don't know. But this is definitely a hen feather. So we'll see. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't match, and they're not exactly the same length, but, you know, she's not perfect, is she? That's not the idea of this. So the fact that she's not going to have any arms, she's going to have feathers instead, gives me a little bit of a challenge when it comes to the body, because usually what I do is I form the torso, and if I have to add arms, I will do a cross piece behind. I'll show you that. And then I do the legs. Sometimes the legs are branches that are separate. I've showed you it in the past. But if not, I can do one on either side. Just let me cut a torso piece first. I'm going to cut a short torso piece. See if I can do this. And I'm cutting it on an angle so I have a point. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to make a hole. I think she should already have a hole where she was hung. Let me see if I can find her hole. I'm going to just there from the top. Find it from the top. I went down the pilot hole that I already had. And I'm going to put the stick in that because I want to give her a torso. This is going to be her torso. And again, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on her stick, on this. So I want to glue it in. And wherever that came out of, it's going in. And that's it. It doesn't have to go in too far because I just have to have something to glue to, okay? That's all I'm looking for. Now, normally I would cut an arm piece and I would put it behind here and I would wrap that. And then I would cut leg pieces. You can go ahead and cut leg pieces right now. I want her legs to be rather long because she's marching. Oh, but before I do that, I want to get the arms. I'm not going to really do Because she's going to have feathers, she doesn't need this, except I'm going to establish that this is where her shoulders are, because by doing that and showing she has a neck and she has shoulders, like if I do it shorter, I have something to wrap, because remember, that's how I form the body. Whoops, this is in the way. That's how I form the body. Okay, so if I just establish shoulders, and then I'll have something to wrap, and that will also give me shoulders where I want to attach the feathers. So I just need a short piece, about, and I might as well do it on an angle like I had that one. No reason I have to, but no reason I can't. Okay. And this will be the shorter piece, and I don't have to glue it. I am going to use this, my yarn to wrap, not my yarn, I have fabric that I'm going to wrap to establish shoulders, and then I'm going to cut legs and wrap them. Okay. So, how long do I want my legs to be? So when she's standing about, I want her nice and tall, maybe about that long. So I'll cut two the same length. They don't have to be exactly the same length, but it doesn't hurt. Okay. Put my stick aside. And then I'm going to end up basically like this. If I can get this in the camera, it's going to be built like that. Built like that. Okay? And then she's going to have feather arms. Feather arms. Okay? That might be a little too long, so I'm going to really, but I can always cut them to length after I'm done. Right now I just have to worry about the torso. And something that I always keep, I have this basket here that I have up on my shelf, and I keep all kinds of, I have a fan on it and my stuff keeps blowing away. I keep this rag, this linen, scraps of linen that I can just tear strips off, and that's what I'm going to use to wrap her, make a torso. So I just have to start it out and cut it. I just make a slit, and then I can rip it. And however long it goes. Okay, I just cut strips. Thickness doesn't matter. Again, I just make a slit somewhere at the top that I can grab onto. And if it doesn't tear, I make it longer. Just to start it, and then I can tear it. Okay. And we'll see how much I need to use. Okay, now what I do is I'm going to start with the shoulders. I'm going to put that piece behind. And I'm just going to hold it in place while I start wrapping. And I think I've showed you this before. I'm just going to take it over and around. Whatever I need to do to hold that in place. Okay. Just wrap it around. Make a neck. Come around. And just keep going however it will fit. It's just initially, you see it just initially to hold those shoulders in place. That's all I did. I just wrapped. I apologize for this. I'm not doing a very good job on my on my camera. Oh wait, maybe I can. Whoops. So then I have what I know that's going to be held. See, that's not going anywhere. It's fine. I can add in the legs. And remember, the legs are just going to be, I'm going to tuck them up under the arm. And that's going to be the length. That'll also add a little bit of thickness to the it's tricky to hold it. There you go. I just want to start getting them in. And then I want to go between the legs because I don't want them touching each other. I want there to be some width. So I go around and then I go down between the other leg. I know I could have a better shot angle here, but I just don't have the right kind of holder for my camera. It's getting caught in that piece. It looks much harder than it is. It's just fidgety because I'm trying to hold it so you can see it. Once you get the initial, there. So I just keep going around and then I go down between the legs just to space them out a little bit. See, now they're not touching at the bottom. They're out a little bit. And then I keep going around. And I want to add some more to it. So when I get an end, I don't even have to glue it or anything. I just put the next piece on it. I just put the next piece on, however it wants it to be, and I start wrapping it again. And when I wrap it, it holds that in. And I can go back up over the shoulders if I want to, or back up behind and over the shoulders. Across it this way, across it this way around the head. Bring it down the body, down the torso. And then I'm going to go up between the legs again. Keep going around that torso all the time to keep those legs apart. There. And I'm going to go over the shoulder and around over the shoulder. And I think I want one more piece. So I'm just going to lay that down. Get one more piece of length of fabric. Cut the end. This is fascinating television, I'm sure. And then, because I want to make sure I have the torso the shoulders. I want to make sure the shoulders are covered. And there we go. And then I'm ready to just put some glue on here. And I'm going to have stuff over top of it, so it'll be fine. So I'm just going to put some glue all over the back, some tacky glue. You can use any kind of glue you want. You can use hot glue. I'm just not a fan of hot glue. I make such a mess with it. Anyway, and that's it, and she's just going to she's going to dry. There we have a torso. Okay. That was so clumsy, and that was really bad, but you know, I think you get the idea. Okay, now I'm not going to take all the time to film the whole thing. I don't think you want to watch it. I will come back and to show you pieces of it. But what I want to show you is some other things. Oh, now you'll be able to see how the feathers will play a part for her arms. Okay, and what I'm gonna do to get those to stay is I just have some ordinary thread. And I'm going to wrap it and tie it around with it, like almost sew it, but not sew it, but just wrap the feather in the thread, you know, maybe applying some glue, you know, doing that, wrap, glue, and then this will be just sewn to the body somehow, okay? So I'm not going to show you that. That's going to be too tedious to watch. But I'll show you when I'm done with it. I'm going to do that. And then I have some fun things I want to show you in my stash. I have these lovely yarns. It's just a little bag of, this is cotton cording. I use this, well, you know, this is the same kind of cording. It's like embroidery floss, but this is different weight. This is 5/2 weight. This is what I would use for some of my, to be honest, what I did was I used this for, I would make garters for my husband in the SCA to hold up his chausses, which are like his socks, but they're fabric. They're like, they go to above the knee, and they have to have garters on them. But 14th century was very into colors, so I had all these really bright colors, and I would make these on with card weaving, with tablet weaving. I'll show that sometimes. But anyway, I had the most fun colors, and I use these same cords all the time. This is what I use to wrap when I make smudge wands. You'll see me use these too, because I love the colors, and they're cotton, and they wrap really well, and they burn. If you don't want to take the cord off, you want to just burn them, they burn very well. So they're handy to have. So I thought they would make, I couldn't help but think, when I was thinking about this woman and her colored socks, I don't have colored socks, but I could wind different colors up her little legs here for socks. That's what I thought I would do. So that is what I will do. Okay. And I'm going to do that much, and then I'm going to come back and I'll talk to you about how I'm going to finish her off with what is she going to wear and what am I going to do about her hair. So I'll be back with another video after I'm out with the rest of the video. I'll be back after I get this cord wrapped on her legs, her socks on, her arms on, and her torso will be dry, and then I will show you my finishing touches. We had quite an interesting time here. We had a thunderstorm. We had rain. We had lightning and thunder and wind, and it was very exciting, which I know to you that's not exciting, but to us it's very exciting. That never happens here. It specifically doesn't really happen in October. So that was just very fun, and it sort of threw us off our schedule a little bit. We had some things going on, and everything kind of went nuts. But I wanted to show you, I did finish the doll, but I want to show you a couple things first. When you saw her last, she had just her, I think she had her wings and her legs, whatever. I went ahead and I did the, I wrapped her socks, I made her socks, and put her arms on, and I did her face, and I just did her hair. But before I tell you what else I did, I want to show you the materials. I told you I always am collecting things. Well, I didn't want her to have a tutu on necessarily, because how silly is that, really, to have a tutu on? But I could imagine her thinking she had a tutu on and what she would have contrived to be a tutu. This is something that everybody has, these little bags. These are bags that, well, this one I have cut, but it's just these plastic meshy bags. You know, these. We saved them. They, you know, you get some things in them. I don't know what comes in these. Onions, I think, maybe garlic sometimes. I'm not sure what. But they come in, you know, when you buy stuff from the store, they come in these. We saved them because these bags, since they're, see how they expand. And they're durable because they're made out of plastic, which normally I would hate. But we use these to put around things that are growing up on our trellis that are heavy, that might be heavy in our garden. For instance, I think we use them for, what do we use these for? We use them for melons. I told you we had some volunteer cantaloupes in our garden. And something else, we're not sure what it was. Perhaps watermelon, little watermelons. They get heavy on the vine, and these little bags work wonderful to support them as until they get bigger. So we always save these, and I thought, well, isn't that cute? I could make like a little tutu out of it because it's that netty stuff. So what I did was, on my doll, I just folded it like that. You know, as long as I wanted it to be, so it was double thickness. And then I just cut it off. And then I just took some thread on the folded edge, some of the same stuff I used on the socks, and just, you know, gathered the edge and tied it around her. So I have this. And then I wanted some hair. And I went into my stash to see what kind of hair I had to offer. Of course, I have my own hair that I keep, but I didn't want my own hair. One thing I love to use is, I always have wool top, or wool, it's either wool top or it's roving, something that I've spun, or carded wool. This is carded wool that I have, it's ready to spin. You see, it's ready to spin. I can drop that out. And it's lovely. I've had this wool for a long time. I've shown it to you before. I have a couple. I have some gray. This is all natural colors, the way it comes off the sheep. It's gorgeous. And I thought, well, she can have brown hair, or she can have, you know, this really dark, or she can have gray. And then I have a lighter brown. And then when I was looking in my stash, what did I find? I was so excited. I couldn't even believe how excited. In this bag, look at this. Blue. Blue. And I thought, oh, blue hair, you know, that's always we always think of blue hair when we think, you don't, you're too young, most of you, but when I was a little girl, women who had gray hair would go to the beauty salon and have blue rinse put on their hair. It was bluey, and I'm not sure what it was called, but the reason, well, that was unnecessary.
Leave it.
Dan tried to eat Betty White. She did not want to be eaten. Their hair, as it grayed or whatever, had a tendency perhaps to go yellow, and it wasn't very flattering. So they would put the blue rinse on it to keep it from turning yellow. And often many women who overdid on the rinse ended up with what we called, it was actually blue. And on my 60th birthday, I actually did dye my hair pretty close to this blue. I didn't mean to get it this blue, but I thought that'd be fun to do, and I overdid it, and it was this blue, and it was so fun. So I thought, oh, she needs to have blue hair. So I used some of that, and I'll show you. She's all finished, and I'll show you what she looks like. I think she's precious. Here she is. I know this camera is not good, but you can see her face. Now you can see her face. There you go. Her mouth open, and her teeth. Oh, look, I think you can see. The rice came out so cute in her teeth. Her lips are painted. She's got a blush. She's got the whites in her eyes. Here's her wings that she has on her for her arms. Here's her with the tutu, whatever it is. And here's her socks, not matching socks. How I wound it around the sticks. And then I put, instead of feet, she has bells, because I thought, oh, I wanted her to be able to make a joyful noise, because that's what she was doing. And then, of course, I glued this. I don't even know what it is. I had it in something. It's just a little glass bead, whatever, mirror bead or whatever. But I thought, oh, it's beautiful crystal. It just lets her enter her heart, her inner self, her soul shine, which is what I see her as doing. And of course with her beautiful top knot and her blue hair. So anyway, oh, it was fun to do. She's not beautiful. She's not beautiful by any means, but oh, she means a lot to me. She is the spirit of the woman that I saw going down the street. So I welcome her as a spirit doll this season. Okay, let me turn the camera. I want to say goodbye. I don't know why. I like to look at you before I say goodbye. That's just, I know I'm not looking at you, but I feel like I'm looking at you. But anyway, here she is. I have a light here it was very dark when I was trying to film this with the storm, so. But anyway, she's so much fun. She's so much fun. And I love her little face. I hope you can see her little face. Oh, the light is good. I hope I can, if that works. I don't know if that works or not. Maybe that's too much light. Well, I'll have a good photograph of her. You'll be able to see a good photograph of her later. But anyway, there she is. The lesson of the spirit dolls is there are no rules. Use what you have, but let the apple or whatever it is that you're using for your spirit doll, let it talk to you. The apple talks to you. The feeling, trust the feelings that you're getting. If you're putting together sticks and stones and whatever you're putting together, clay, faces, whatever you're doing, let the material speak to you. What kind of message are you getting from the materials? And you can't go wrong. Okay. I'd love you to share some of your ideas with me, what you do, if you do spirit dolls, how you do them. This is my way. It's not the right way. It's not the wrong way. It's my way. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I am Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.